think it's on its way out.
Okay.
It's only one line. I think it's gonna go out real soon. So you let me know.
So look for the beeping.
No, it'll just go out. I think. Yeah. So.
All right.
Okay. Again, so essentially, just like a quick review of everything. Morning. So, again, the three cities of refuge, they represent a new order of Torah coming into the world. Essentially, the mochin, the intellect, or the Chabad. And the idea behind it is why we're going to need three new cities. Because there is still going to be evil in the world. This is the days of Mashiach we're talking about, not Tchias HaMeisim, where the evil will be completely removed. But in the days of Mashiach, the evil will be concentrated in one place. And so what is going to make us never sort of fall prey to it, is that a new Torah will come out. Torah Chadash Me'iti Teitzeh, so to speak. The new Torah, Kiviyachol, so to speak, which is a brand new insights into Mashiach's understanding of Torah. And this is represented by the three cities and comes together with the actual physical three cities. And the idea being is that somehow because of this new Torah coming out, it's going to prevent even the possibility from evil coming into the world. Whereas the three original cities, they didn't stop the possibility of the six original cities. They didn't stop the possibility of evil. Oh, great, thanks. They just were able to fix evil, so to speak, when it already happened, right? They were like the whole world was called the city of refuge to Adam HaRishon, that he fled there, and basically its job was to refine him and to separate the good from the evil and to heal him.
Am I the only one hearing that?
I think that's this. Oh, it's that? Okay.
I'm not understanding the three cities. I understand three cities. So what's the point of the three cities?
So there's going to be there's six cities now, and the three cities will be added in the future, right? Okay, so what we wound up saying was that the cities of refuge in general, they represent a tikkun for sin. And we see that by the fact that when Adam killed everybody in the world, basically, because Adam was responsible for all death coming into the world. And then we're going to go ahead and give him the advantage that it was an accidental murder, because he didn't mean to kill everybody, he just sinned, right? So Hashem put him out of the Garden of Eden, and the whole world basically became the city of refuge. So we see the city of refuge is like this main principal mitzvah, which is the rectification of sin. And what does the city of refuge really mean? In other words, is that it's called Torah, because Divrei Torah Koltin, Torah themselves are called a refuge. And so then we decided there's two different types of Torah. There's Torah, which is like practical, and it engages with the world in such a way that it serves to refine the world. It fixes the problem, it fixes a broken world. And that's generally represented by the number 6, because the Mishnah is 6 orders of the Mishnah, and the whole Mishnah is basically discussing how to fix a broken world, essentially, right? How to put the world into order with this mitzvah, that mitzvah. And so that's what the so to speak cities of refuge, which is really Torah, did. It enabled the broken world to be fixed in accordance with Torah. However, once that process will be complete, so all the world will be fixed, that means the evil will be in one place and the good will be in another place, because it doesn't have the power to remove the evil, it just has the power to separate it and bring it back to its original form, like it was in the Garden of Eden, where the serpent was the concentration of evil and everything else was good, but at least it was separated. So then, at that time, there's a mitzvah we saw that to add 3 additional cities of refuge, like when Hashem will increase our border, i.e. when Mashiach comes. So we're saying, then we had like basically a question: why are we going to need 3 more cities of refuge, which on a simple pshat level, are there to protect a murderer, when we're going to be in the days of Mashiach, there's going to be no evil in the world. So we said, actually, there is going to be evil in the world. It's just going to be in this state of concentration. Right? So there is kind of still a shaykhus to fend from evil. It's just that it's going to take place in this whole new way. And so with these 3 physical cities, there's also the spiritual counterpart of just like the 6 cities represented the 6 orders of the Mishnah, and what we call the revealed part of the Torah, there's the second part of the Torah, which is a Torah which is beyond the world, beyond the mere practical usage of refining good and bad in this simple world, and really it's sort of God's wisdom which is beyond creation. And that's really the Torah of Mashiach is going to be revealed, and that's represented by the 3 new cities, because the 3 new cities represent, in a sense, Chokhmah, Bina, and Das. They represent the intellect which is above the Midos. The 6 are correspond to the Midos, which are really corresponding to creation. 6 is kind of interchangeable with 7, he was saying. The idea that Hashem made the world in 7 days, and it's all the lower Midos. Whereas the 3 new lands that will be added to Israel, plus the 3 new cities, represent an increase in Torah wisdom on an unprecedented scale. And this, going back to the point of like the city of refuge, this is also going to be a refuge of a sort. Just like the original cities of refuge fixed sin, these cities of refuge will preempt the strike, so to speak, and make it so that the possibility of sin will never even come into play. So they're also, so to speak, functioning to protect the would-be accidental murderer, which again, it represents any person who sins, because all sin, I kind of missed this part, but all sin is sort of goes to this category of accidental murder. So these 3 cities also protect the accidental murderer, i.e. the sinner, but in a different way, not by picking him up once he falls, but by making him so he'll never fall again. And why is it? Because this new state of wisdom will come into the world, which is basically like it's a preventative type of Torah. Okay, so that's... Okay, listen, the truth is we've been working on this for like 3 weeks already. It's a lot of background information, Rachamim, but you more or less caught up?
I got it.
Okay. So then, one last thing. If anyone has any questions, because there's a lot of just like working parts over here. They're all fitting together, right? If you have any questions, please ask. Questions? So then the last thing we said now is to understand this whole concept, we have to look into the chiddush that in the future the halacha is going to go like Beis Shamai over Beis Hillel. And then we started saying that what were their arguments really about? And we said that when it comes to something which is clearly evil, they both agree. You have to push it away. When it comes to something which is definitely, clearly permissible, i.e. it has no evil parts in it, right? No shred of darkness. They both agree you can say it's mutter, and therefore you must say it's mutter because you have to elevate it into the, so to speak, the Jewish family, and making it mutter means you can bring it up into Kedusha and elevate it. So if it's possible to elevate, you must elevate it, and they both agree on that. Where do they disagree? When there's a suffix, right? When there's a doubt whether or not this thing is kosher or not, is when what? When the evil in it is behelam, is concealed. So therefore, Shamai, whose whole name itself represents the idea of sort of investigating and analyzing the depths of something, he'll say that we have to look deeply and we can discover the hidden evil in it, and therefore it's evil, and therefore we have to push it away. Whereas Hillel is from Chesed. Chesed means to shine light. His whole interest and his whole yearning is to just find new ways to shine light. So if the evil is not glaring, he'll say it's not evil, he'll make it permissible, and then you can elevate it. Which is most of the things that we have in this world. Go like Hillel, that we give ourselves the ability to elevate those things as opposed to pushing them away. Thus expanding the boundary of the aspects of the world that we can elevate. Because if we would have gone like Hillel, it would have meant that much of the world could not be elevated.
I was reading yesterday in Brachas, and it was saying that Rabbi Tarfon went like Beis Shamai, and it was dangerous for him.
Right, we mentioned that.
You mentioned that?
Yeah, Listim, Ba'alav, B'derech.
Yeah.
Right,
It's like dangerous.
robbers came on the way.
Yeah.
And they said to him, because you went like Beis Shamai, like he had it coming to you, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a Vera over there. They said over
Okay, so let's go on now. And we said that basically the idea here, we're going to take it from the page 189, first column, towards the bottom, second to last paragraph. Beis Shamai, actually right before that. Yesh lahosiv she'achiluk bein Beis Shamai and Beis Hillel hu gam b'darkas haTorah she'al yeda nasa bira olam. So not only did they paskin differently, but we want to also add here that the difference between them was also on the level of Torah through which they decided they were going to refine the world. Remember, they were both in the first sort of like stage one of Torah. The purpose was to refine the world. So what type of Torah did they use to refine the world? So it says that Beis Shammai, we already said, were Mechadei Tefei. They were wiser, sharper than Beis Hillel. Darga Nailis Yoser B'limud Torah. They learned Torah on a higher level. The B'koach Shebetorah, the Pnimius Torah, right? What was their whole strategy? Was to look at the depths of things, to look beyond the surface and see maybe there's some hidden evil even though I can't see it. So what type of Torah looks beyond the surface, as we said yesterday? This is the Pnimius Torah. In other words, the reason why they saw deeper is because in general they were learning Pnimius Torah, which probes the depths and doesn't leave things as they are on the surface. So their whole aspect, their whole derech in Torah was the potential, so to speak. They went after potential as opposed to actual. So the potential of Torah is also the hidden inner, what might be in there, as opposed to what's clearly seen and revealed.
But what is called Panim?
Pnimius Torah is the secrets of Torah.
Even though it's Panim, which is surface, like.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting.
That's interesting.
Interesting. Interesting. Actually, I'm not sure if it's panim. But yeah,
Sod secret.
I don't say. I mean, like you saw the misrad hapnim, right? This means the interior ministry. I don't know if it means so much surface.
Okay.
I guess you could say on the face
On
of
the
something.
face
Yeah.
of something.
Okay. I guess it goes kind of both ways. Interesting. Anyway, here no, but I would say the simple meaning of it is inside, internal. Like panima means to go in, you know. So anyway, so they learned the Pnimius Torah. Shebekocha yacholim levarer, and therefore, since they had the Pnimius Torah, they had the power to refine lo rak ra hagalui, not only revealed evil, but also ra hanelam, but even concealed evil. In other words, they had the power to probe deeper and refine a deeper level of evil in the world. See, that's the thing, is that they wanted to get rid of the evil in the world as well, so they were able to see a deeper stain inside of creation, basically, and they were working on that level. Whereas Shammai was sort of working on, Hillel was more working on like a surface level. So they were dealing with what they saw, but even if you're going to go all in a realm of Hillel and refine the world to perfection according to what he sees, there's really a hidden level of evil where he's not even touching, right? And Shammai was going all the way in to like take care of the actual problem. Masha'in kain beis Hillel, not so Hillel shalom di matorah kefi shiba poel v'giloi. Right? Hillel's whole thing is that he learns the Torah in such a way where it's in actual and what's revealed. Nigla of Torah, and that's basically not looking into the secrets of Torah. The Torah as it is in its face value. Right? What you see is what you get. So that's how he approached the Torah. By the way, this whole idea of going for potential versus actual, right? That Shammai goes for the potential, Hillel goes for the actual. There's places where the Rabbi breaks down like everything they say in the whole Talmud is in this similar vein. Just like Hillel goes to Gevura, like Shammai goes with Gevura and Hillel goes with Chesed, so too you can paint the whole thing with potential and actual. So here there is like the classic Hanukkah debate that they have, right? That Hillel says you start with 1 candle and you go up to 8. And why is that? Because you're looking at what you actually have. He's going with not the potential but the actual. First night, what do you have in your hand? 1, so you light 1. 5th night, what do you have? In actuality, 5, so you light 5. Shammai goes the opposite way. The first night, why do you light 8 candles? Because in potential, pregnant inside of this moment, you have all 8 nights. Right? And the next night, what do you have left? You only have 7 nights potentially left. So all the arguments of Hillel and Shammai go according to potential and actual, but now we're going deeper. What does it really mean, potential and actual? Potential is the inner hidden secret of the Torah. The actual is the revealed parts of the Torah. So this is the reason why, in a certain sense, that Shammai was able to probe so deeply. He went after the potential. So but Hillel, he went after the Nigla. And the idea is that Ein Inyanim Levarer Rahanelam. Their Inyan was not to Inyanam Levarer Rahanelam. Their Inyan, therefore, was not to touch or deal with the hidden evil that was latent inside of things. They figured, you know what? We'll leave that to another time. Let's get whatever we can get our hands on taken care of. In such a situation, you know what? I can give you this copy, David, if you want. One. You have an extra copy?
I think we're. Still gone.
Here you go. The extra one. Anyway. So, in any words, in a situation like this, she'ein inyan levar hara nelam, right? Since they're not trying to undo the hidden evils and even deal with the hidden evil, the potential deep-seated issues inside of the world. Therefore, they pasaked, let's make it heter, because it would then be prohibited for them to push away and distance themselves from things that could be elevated. In other words, since they weren't looking so deeply into the problem, and their Inyan was not to go make such an intense, intrusive surgery on the world, therefore they're basically saying, like, it's fine at that level, and therefore, like, let's permit it. If I can't even see it, if it's too small to work with, too refined to work with, then it's like we don't see it. So therefore, we have to say the whole thing is permissible and elevatable, right? And therefore, all the things that Hillel would want to sort of get deep on, they said it's too deep. We can elevate those things. We don't even see those things. It's a hidden evil. It's not a real evil. If you would make it usher, you're going to basically disallow us from elevating the object. So he says, Bizman hazeh, in these days, the matzav of the olam is that rov bnei adam einam shaychim ledargasim shel beis Shammai. Yeah.
It's funny to think that if Shamai is going to like the deeper element of it, you think he would make it permissible, because then you can elevate that deep element of it.
Yeah,
right?
but only because when you look deep, he found that there was problems with it.
Right.
Like we said, for example, like a cup of coffee. If you look really, or almost anything in your life, if you look deeply into it, you're like, wait a second, I could get addicted to this.
Those little pieces of
Even a piece of fruit, whatever it is. Like, in other words,
Isn't that the whole, yin yang thing, where out of good there's always the seed of evil in good, and there's always the seed of good in evil.
But Chassidus is like always the fruit of good, like that. Even the bad is good, and like even like it seems like the unity of the Torah is like everything's good. It seems like.
okay, but it's not because it's ignorant to the fact that it's bad. In other words, again, it's true that everything's good,
Yeah.
but the approach is that you're not. Is that, like we said yesterday, what's permissible is permissible. What's forbidden is forbidden. What's permissible is unnecessary. Right? So in other words, the approach of a chassid is that you don't need anything from this world. Basically, it's not like you're going. You need a bunch of things to be permissible, right? Because you're only using things for the service of Hashem. So to make a whole bunch of things permissible that potentially could be used not for the service of Hashem, right, is unnecessary for someone who's like living in a state of a chassid, right? Because he anyway is not going to utilize those things that are permissible to him, because he himself sees the hidden evil in them, right?
But the potential of it can go either way. The potential could be good.
It better be safe and sorry.
No, but in other words, the potential is that it could be good,
Yeah.
meaning that. But then why? In other words, when you say the potential is good, is that eating something that he doesn't need to eat for the sake of heaven, right? He's just going to eat it for what other reason is there? For his own self, happiness. That's not good. It's not.
The item itself is like.
Either way.
Either way.
And how do you determine whether it's good or not? Because whether you need it to serve God with.
Right.
So he's saying what's permissible is unnecessary. In other words, he already recognized that he does not need that to serve God. It's unnecessary. I could do fine without it. Therefore, if it's unnecessary, I'm going to use it anyway. What am I using it for? For myself, not for God.
Right.
So therefore, you're right. It could go either way. And if you engage in it, it's going to go the wrong way.
But you could say to elevate it. That's kind of the.
Yeah.
No, but again, elevating it something is if it's only going to be used for kedusha. The idea of saying that you can elevate something, you can't elevate something if you're eating it for your own pleasure. That's not how you elevate something, right? You have to elevate something by eating it for God. You can't elevate a pair of tefillin by putting them on a non-Jew or even an animal, right?
Right.
But you can elevate if you put them on yourself, right?
But you can elevate lechem even if you have like a gluten thing, or if you're like not feeling, if you don't feel good, and it doesn't really serve your body and your health to eat bread, but lechem is.
That's okay. So you're proving the point that it has nothing to do with you,
Right.
right?
So you can see the bread. You can see the bread and say like, okay, this bread is doing its own thing. I'm going to bring it inside my body, and now it's part of me, and I'm just like going to be serving Hashem all day. So therefore, it's like doing good.
But
It's like part of me now. It's my blood, flesh. And
in other words,
I'm just going to like bring it into my organization called my ecosystem. That's my.
yeah. But if you don't need to eat in order to have the strength to serve God, unless it's Shabbos and there's a mitzvah to eat, you can't do that. You can't just make that move, right? You can't just say because basically the ultimate reason of your eating it. Okay, unless you're mamash at tzaddik and like you don't have any pleasure from the food,
Right.
that's a different story. But that's not what's going on here, right? So you are taking pleasure from the food. So you're basically just kind of fooling yourself to think I'm only eating this l'shem
I'm not
shamayim
saying
because it's satisfying you. It's satisfying you. It tastes good, you know.
Right.
So that's the point. They're saying if it's permissible, it's basically my first check is that it's unnecessary, right? Because do I really need this to serve Hashem? And if I don't, then eating it is not to serve Hashem, and therefore it has a hidden evil in it. So therefore, the Hasidic, so to speak, way is I'm going to push it away. Now, this idea that you're saying that everything is good, ultimately, you don't have to partake of it to turn the evil into good. Everything is good goes even on the really bad guys in the world. We can see like in a deep way they're good. It's not because the pig is kosher, that's what makes it good. It's like even the evil is good. Doesn't mean that you have to make it kosher, right? It just means that you can see that and how do you do it? When you realize that its only purpose is to serve Hashem and not to be sort of eaten and utilized for your own selfish uses, that it's there in order to give free choice, and therefore it's a necessary godly invention, so you can turn the evil into good, but not by, so to speak, making it kosher. That's not what it means that you turn the evil into good.
Right.
Unless, of course, like you're a tzaddik, and then you're eating the bread purely, even though you're a normal person, or let's say it's chocolate cake in this, you're eating it purely to serve Hashem. So you actually can turn evil into good. Right? But a normal person can't do that. So they're paskening for Am Yisrael over here, for the generations.
Right. I guess where I was coming from is that like to say that Shamai, who's coming from the Pneumis Torah, is strict and says no to most things. For me, like that seemed strange because I guess the whole like Chabad system is coming from the Pneumis Torah, like the deepest Torah, and it engages in the world.
And we're extremely strict in our engagement with the world. Right? That's what I'm trying to say. Our approach is everything which is forbidden is forbidden. Everything is permissible, you don't need it. And that's why you can go so deeply into the world. Because basically the world's not going to trip you up because you're like inwardly doing things l'shem Shamai. If right? So okay, obviously that's the whole novelty that we're dealing with but isn't that the question of the whole sikha? It's like why when we go into this higher level of Torah learning, do things suddenly all become prohibitive? That was one of our questions. Mashiach comes, we're going to go like Beis Shammai, seemingly everything's going to be good. Why are we going to need to add thousands and thousands of prohibitions? So you're basically asking the Rebbe's question over there. He's still answering it. Right? I'm just sort of throwing out some bait before we get there. Okay, so essentially what we're holding here now is that in the situation of the world today, the very last line on this column is that Rov Bnei Adam Einam Shaychim L'Dargasim Shel Beis Shammai, that most people are not on the level of Beis Shammai, Lishkol L'Dakdek Darkeihem, to weigh and to be so exacting in their path, B'Tachlis Azahiros, in such an unbelievable state of carefulness, Gam Mira Hanelam, in other words, even to stay away from the hidden evil. Most people are just not holding on that level. where they're gonna like probe to the depths and see, wait a second, I could see how this thing in a few stages later could lead to me going off the path of Hashem, not like even giving up Torah mitzvahs, just doing things selfishly, like whatever it is. And they're not able to therefore refine the world on such a high level of Torah. Therefore the halach is like Beis Hillel, right? In other words, we give people a break. We say, you know what? We're not demanding that you sort of probe to the depths and see theoretically after 5 stages what might go wrong with your eating this. It's so far away. Right now, you can elevate it, right? In other words, this whole like Hasidic idea is like not. We're saying it's like not the psak, right?
That's what I'm saying,
Most people say if it's permissible, eat it. Not if it's permissible, it's unnecessary, right? Because again, you can elevate it. Why not elevate it?
Yeah.
It's only this like sort of messianic consciousness, like Beis Shamai, where you're going to start refraining from it because you say, you know, I actually can't elevate that thing. That thing's going to actually wind up bringing me down at some one level or another. I can't do the refinement process on this object by consuming it. I have to do the refinement process on this object by rejecting it, because it will lead to evil inside of me. And therefore there's no room inside. The way to refine it properly is to negate it as opposed to bring it up.
Can I ask a question and tell me to talk with you later if it's too much?
Okay.
When we say L'Shem Shemayim, aside from the mitzvot, but if let's say you're eating a piece of whatever, fruit,
Right.
and it tastes so good,
Right.
right? Okay, so is that selfish? And then what if you say, it's so good, thank you, Hashem. And then what? What's the line?
Look, it says the Baal Shem Tov says in a simple, again, thank God we go like Beis Hillel, okay? Because the truth is that there is, unless it's Shabbos, in which case we have a particular mitzvah to enjoy our food, there is no mitzvah to enjoy food on the weekday.
To bless food.
Yeah, okay. But that's not a mitzvah, that's 2 different things.
Right.
But the idea is that the Baal Shem...
blessing that's hollow. I mean, if you say a blessing when it's not hollow, you say...
When you say hollow, it's interesting.
You have to be feeling like the fabulousness of this piece of fruit.
It's not hollow, but there's many grades. Okay, the blessing of a 5-year-old and the blessing of a 10-year-old and the blessing of a 15-year-old, even on a simple physical level, they're totally different because they're bringing something different to the table. Now, of course, you could say a 5-year-old has like a certain simple panemius connection, like tamimis connection with it. Let's put that on the side for a second, like the uniqueness of a child in that regard. But in terms of his approach to the seriousness of things, he's just saying the words. He's just learning the bracha for the first time versus a person who's like learned just now a whole mimer about eating according to the God's will. When he says his bracha, it's going to be like he's going to be like a college graduate bracha, right? Now I'll give you another one. It says that tzaddikim, they only eat in order to say the bracha. We say the bracha in order to eat. They only eat in order so they can say a bracha. They have no interest in the food whatsoever. They just want to elevate something. So let me have something. And the great tzaddikim would train themselves not even to taste their food. It says the Alter Rebbe, you know, one time there was the whole story that a special guest was coming over, and all the Rebbitzins, the daughter and the wife, they were all in the kitchen. Each one was trying to, you know, help with the food. They all salted it by accident. The other one didn't know that this one salted it, this one didn't. So it was like, and so the guest, you know, he took a bite and he put it on the side, and the Alter Rebbe was just eating all day long. He ate the whole meal. So they asked him, he said, oh, I forgot. When I was in Mezrich, I learned how to not taste my food anymore. So why am I giving this story? Not because I'm telling you not to taste your food, but there are grades. So no one's saying you're a big sinner if you enjoy the taste of the apple. It's against your will, frankly. You enjoy it. There's nothing unless you train yourself not to taste food, which again no one's asking you to do. Is the work of some sort of tzaddikim. But yes, a lot of it has to do with your intention. Like for example, and your mind is powerful. Let's say a person's a smoker their whole life, and then God forbid they get some kind of a disease or something and they quit, and the doctor said they would be disgusted at having the same cigarette they had the day before. Why? Because intention. You can be. It depends how you approach the thing, whether you find it tasty or not. Really, I mean, it could be one food. Today you love it, tomorrow you hate it, all based on your mind. And basically, just as a rule to put in your pocket, the Baal Shem Tov says, what does it mean that after Adam sinned and the whole world sinned, evil got mixed into good with every object in the world? He said the taste and the sweetness of the food is the evil, and the health benefits is the good. Everything is mixed with evil and good, meaning what? The geschmack of it, the tastiness of it, it's pleasing to the eyes and it's luscious to the tongue.
Evil?
That's the evil part of it, because it's basically unless it's Shabbos. Where in Shabbos there is no evil, so therefore even so to speak these physical things can be elevated on Shabbos. But in the weekday, because we are selfish beings.
The apple's always going to be an apple, a delicious
In
apple.
the weekday, when we're stripped from this sort of godly consciousness, and therefore we don't have a mitzvah to eat. You can't get rid of yourself, and therefore the taste is for you. The part of the taste is for you. You're doing it for yourself.
Well, the tzaddik can get rid of himself.
We're not talking about a tzaddik.
No, but should we even have a goal of looking at an apple?
You can have a goal, but it's no problem if you have a goal. But I mean, don't let the goal make you an anorectic, and don't let the goal, slow you down. But I'm telling you right now all these stories to give us the goal, the aim, But the idea being is that why is there food during the weekday? To give you strength so you can serve God. That's the only reason for it. It's not for the tastiness of the apple. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's a different. That's why I'm saying, like, Hasidim talk like this, and all of a sudden they get into this conversation. When you get to Liozna, and you're going to go, you have to wait to have Yechidus with the Alter Rebbe for 3 years. They would give you something to meditate before you went in and saw the Rebbe one-on-one. What was it? Everything which is prohibited is prohibited, and everything which is permissible is unnecessary. Meditate on that for 3 years, then you can go and see the Rebbe. It's just because he's pushing us into Shamai world. In other words, he's like, so it's not something that a normal Jew needs to be thinking about. Frankly, in all the years, this was not the conversation per se. It's a Hasidic type of view on things, getting to like the real root of evil inside of us, which is like selfishness. And even though in all the generations that wasn't considered per se evil, and on the contrary, we had a lot of elevating to do. Better we should just eat the apple, eat everything, so that we can elevate the parts of it that need elevating. But as we get to the end of the refinement process, we're able to go deeper and realize that inside of this thing, there are things that cannot be elevated. And therefore I have to already, because I'm like learning Torah on a higher Kabbalistic level, I already have to put my mind on that refined level of creation that now needs to be dealt with. And that's why all this only happens in times of Mashiach, when Shamai suddenly takes over, and everyone's going to go like Shamai. We're going to get to the root of the thing, and we're going to handle the level of evil on the most smallest infinitesimal scale. And now going back to the bigger story, this is why these 3 cities of refuge, which represents Kabbalah, or like even more than Kabbalah, like the Torah of Mashiach, is going to keep us from even potentially sinning. You can see why now. Because it already shows us and like puts the spotlight on even the would-be sin that we wouldn't have even thought of a mile away, because of our deep understanding of connection with God, that we're going to be so connected that eating the apple would disgust us, because I know I'm going to have taste from that. And at a Shammai level, I would never even think of it. The Torah of Mashiach is here. I'm not going to eat an apple for pleasure. So they're already deep into the refinement process, and they're able to therefore get to and isolate the hidden evil. Is it coming together here? You're starting to get this idea? Yeah.
Based on what you're saying about food, it seems like everything...
You're hungry, I see.
No. Everything in the physical world seems to have evil in it, because it's not pure, like a pure...
Yes, everything in the physical world has evil in it. This is the whole sad scenario that we find ourselves after the sin.
Chair, like this chair,
it's gonna be
is a
looking
living
good.
organism that's making you float above the ground,
Yeah.
because it's made of the same thing you're made of,
Okay.
living atoms. So how are we possibly going to elevate?
Like Minority Report, you can't destroy anything on the basis of thought crime if it's in the potential to like maybe going to commit evil, is it? Because then it's just too it's brutal.
But Shammai could, right?
But that's their position.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
it's
different.
like the thought is like destroying things on the basis of thought crime. There's a potential to do that.
Right.
Did we say they tried Shamai once and it was a disaster?
Right. So we're going to get to all this. Yes, we did say that. You can already sort of see why, but we're going to see in a second why that is. One of the big questions we had is that there was a day that they voted like Shammai in the 8 old courts, and the law went like him, and they made a declaration that this day was as horrible as the day we worshipped the golden calf.
It was like the worst day.
They actually tried it?
D-Day.
They had to. They voted like
They just
Shammai.
hated everything instantly, basically.
Like the
This is a
worst
bad
day. like not just like bad day, like rain cloud bad day, like golden calf bad day.
Like raining golden calf.
People were jumping ship left and right on that day.
You probably like a Yom Tov.
Yeah, I probably enjoyed it.
Like a funny costume or something.
I just don't understand why God.
All right,
would
let's
make a
go on,
creature-
eh?
Why would God make a species that has to look at an apple and understand that it's just a deceitful lie and it must be?
It all came from
eradicated?
this one situation where he didn't make it like that. He did not make us like that. He made us perfect. But when we decided to not take his advice,
To eat that apple.
it wasn't an apple, but yeah, it was different opinions. But when we decided to, so to speak, we broke the innocence. We broke the innocence. And therefore we basically shattered this, like a state of purity and perfection. And with this shattering, we then took on the responsibility of having to discern between good and evil in everything. He didn't create us like that. We sort of walked into this situation.
Like this guy, he's like in bliss still since his creation. He's still exactly what he is.
This guy over here?
On the window.
Oh, that guy? No, he's also a ruined. He's a ruined bug.
Right, because the animals ate from the tree.
Suffering.
How did they change? They didn't change.
Yes, they all did. Everything in the world became a mixture of good and evil at that time. It went into all matter, right? And the fact is that he's going to die one day, and he wasn't going to die one day if he was in Gan Eden,
Oh, so
right?
he's still
It's like
mortal.
everlasting life.
We made them mortal, basically.
Yeah, well, speak for yourself, there.
But
pal.
Adam's situation was a little bit of like kind of like the Adam loophole almost. Like he wasn't created perfect, because if he was created perfect, he would have had. He wouldn't have been.
That's only if you say that free will is not an aspect of perfection.
Right. So like within that context, like the fact that the snake was just there seems like it would have been kind of like a perfect world without the snake.
No.
No?
That's to say, only if you consider free will an imperfection. Because if there was no snake, there would have been no free will.
Well, clearly, the fruits of free will became the fruits of imperfection.
Oh, no, but just having free will is not necessarily bad. If you use your free will, if you use your free will incorrectly, we know that's bad. Hashem says, choose life, don't choose the opposite. So having free will implicitly is not bad. But obviously the misuse of your free will is the definition of bad. But free will is so good that it's worth the risk.
But it seems like it was meant to kind of fall down.
That may be true. There's no question that there's a point to all this. We're not just like our philosophy is not that we're just like in hell now, and we're like sort of get me out of here. The sense is that Hasidus sees the good in everything.
Yeah.
That really even the evil in Gan Eden and even the evil mixed into you, it all has a very, very important and serves a godly.
And that's Hillel.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not necessarily Hillel's the truth. That's both of them. Both Shamai and Hillel recognize the good in evil.
Well, it's the analysis and it's the application, because the application is not to utilize anything that's tainted with the Shammai.
Okay.
I thought evil can evil.
I would argue that they both recognize the purpose and function of evil. I mean, on a philosophical level. It's just that, in fact, if anything, Shammai recognizes it even more, because he wants to really isolate it, like once and for all. Anyway, let's go on a little bit. We're going to get now to your question. So according to what we said, when the situation is such that the world is not holding by Beis Shammai in our perception, in our sort of maturity level, we can't hold ourselves back from all these pleasures, right? And I mean, pleasure is one thing, but like hidden, theoretical, like thought crimes, that's already a different level. Therefore, the halacha is like Beis Hillel, and Beis Shammai b'makam Beis Hillel ain't no Mishnah. And then we have this like strong statement that Beis Shammai in the place of Beis Hillel is not even a Mishnah. That's what you're recording right now from Brachas. V'ad shekashanimnu v'rabu Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, to the point that when they did go like Beis Shammai one time, that day osayom hayakash liYisrael kiyom shenasa bo ha'egel. That day was as hard for the Jewish people like the day they made the golden calf. Why is that? Because, right, this that you're going to push away and distance from the boundary of holiness, devarim shayu yecholin lekaram, things that could be elevated, la'alosim lekadusha, and elevated into holiness, b'meila nisvasiv koach b'leumat zeh. Therefore, you're automatically giving power to the darkness. See, the idea is like this. Why is it literally like the golden calf? And that's not just a exaggerated, use of the word, right? They're saying it's like the golden calf. They mean it. What was the golden calf? The golden calf was the day when the powers of evil became very strong and multiplied into the world, right? Klippa, you know what klippa is? We're going to get to klippa in the Tanya class. But klippa is like basically the shell which covers godliness. It increased, obviously, massively on the day that we made the golden calf. We opened up a channel for it. When you will be able to elevate something, but you don't, what are you doing? You're leaving it in an unelevated form, and therefore you're adding klippa in the world. So the day they went like base Shamai, when they in their own minds did not see any reason why this thing could not be elevated, it was like they built a golden calf. They basically put a manner of evil in the world they couldn't get rid of. Because you say, no, you're not allowed to touch this. And in their minds they're saying, I can elevate this into the realm of Kedusha. You're now pushing this out, and there's an object in the world now, which you're now pushing into the realm of eternal klippa, which we cannot bring into the holy Jewish family. And here's all the base Hillel thinks that we can. So it basically, this is the whole idea, is that it's a severe crime to prohibit something that can be elevated. And in the mind of Beis Hillel, all those things can be elevated, and therefore, going like Beis Shammai in a time when you don't see the hidden evil is very evil. It's a bad thing. Aval b'yemos Mashiach, but in the days of Mashiach, ti halacha k'Beis Shammai. But how does it mean? What does it mean then when the halacha will be like Beis Shammai then? Kevan shenishtana shikul hadas b'teva haseichel dechachmi Yisrael, because it will change the weighing of the mind's understanding of the nature of the intellect of the wise men of Israel. And why is it going to change suddenly? Because the world is going to change big time, because Mashiach is going to be here. And the whole, basically, mindset of creation will be affected by Mashiach's influence in the world. We're going to see things totally differently. It's like you can see that Hasidus is like that. Hasidus is already like a big taste of that. Like we're saying, like, why in a million years are you like strict about this, you're strict about this, strict about this? Like, where are you going with that? For under what reasons? It's a permissible thing. Eat it, right? Because there's this whole new concept of what does it mean, like refined levels of self, right? Which people weren't talking about that. You know, again, like we talk about the just self-awareness, essentially, is what Mashiach's realization is all about, right? Which is, it kind of goes along with just like the birth of psychology, if you were. Like knowing yourself makes you realize, you know, where you end and Hashem begins, or vice versa, right? The idea meaning like you would be completely selfless individual having no self-interest should you have this perspective of the true nature of God. Like we talk about all the time, the idea of the Or Ein Sof is everywhere, right? And the world is created from a drop of godliness, and it's wrapped inside of it. And if you sit and meditate deeply on these issues, you will sort of stop having self-cravings, because your whole love will be a love of God. Your whole fear will be a fear of God. You'll be perfected person. So as the deepening of the understanding of reality sets in, which is basically in spades has been delivered to our generations, which the previous generations did not have this type of material to meditate on. So it's literally an infusion of godly wisdom like Beis Shammai. So the people's minds are going to change. Just like the Rabbanim who sit together, who are now learning Hasidus, they're going to paskin differently, look at the world differently, and therefore the whole status is going to change. Again, we're not there yet, but this you can see it's like a taste of it. Al pi haklau, and why is it suddenly going to change? Because there's a principle. Ein lo ladayan ela ma she'einav ro'os. Because you can't paskin like Beis Shammai unless you actually see the world like that. Because a judge must judge based on what he actually sees. So in the present time, we're all really not that deep yet. We're not really seeing the hidden evil inside of ourselves. When you eat an apple, you're still asking a healthy question in a class. Are you telling me I can't enjoy my apple? In the times when this knowledge is so prevalent on the earth, you will never ask that question. You'll know darn well you're not supposed to enjoy the apple.
I think that your joy in the apple is part of a mitzvah.
Exactly, and you would never say such a thing if you had the proper possession of this information. Right? Only on Shabbos maybe you would say such a thing. That's my exact point. We don't even see the hidden evil. I promise you I could sit here and explain to you why that's evil. Like we talked about the Alter Rebbe, doesn't taste food. There's no interest of self. In other words, you'd only be fooling yourself to think that your enjoyment there was really for God. which may be on Shabbos because it's a mitzvah to enjoy the food, therefore you can enjoy for God. When there is no mitzvah to enjoy the food, how in a million years could you enjoy it for God? He's not asking you to enjoy it.
Inject it.
Right? Yeah, so all I'm saying is, again, not to push people into some kind of a different lifestyle. I'm just saying that when this real godliness is so revealed to us, these types of, our minds will change and will for sure prohibit such an eating.
Can I just say something really quick?
Yeah.
Is that I think it's a higher level of pleasure, like getting pleasure for things that conceal God. Like the apple, like when you hold an apple, people hold apple and eat apples all the time and don't even believe God exists. So it's like a concealment thing. But we're saying not necessarily don't get any pleasure from the world, but only to get pleasure from things that reveal God. So it's like a higher level of person who's like, they're getting all their pleasure and like happiness, existence, the world from things that reveal God's existence versus conceal.
But again, the pleasure of the Alter Rebbe eating an apple on the weekday is his pleasure in the mitzvah. He has no pleasure whatsoever from the food.
Right,
But also
the
it's
mitzvah,
much greater. Like it's not even comparable. Like they're just it's exactly
the
what I'm
mitzvah
saying.
reveals God's existence. That's why he gets pleasure from it.
Right,
Versus,
okay.
versus the apple which conceals it.
That's not what he's saying.
Okay, so you guys are saying that every apple you taste is going to taste good. So let's say you have like a super rotten apple and it looks really gross, but you still want to elevate
Makes
it,
sense in the
and you're
positive.
suffering eating it to elevate it for Hashem. Is that different?
If your only reason for eating food is for the sake of the nutrients therein, that is the proper way to eat.
But if it's rotten, then it's harming the body.
Okay, so
Theoretically.
let's say it's like a really gross fruit, but you just have to elevate it for Hashem, and you're not going to enjoy eating it because you don't like it.
If the purpose of eating it is to,
Elevate
in
it.
other words, it's like for example, does every medicine that you taste good? You're not caring about the taste. You're caring about your physical needs to be healthy. So if it makes you healthy, it doesn't matter if it tastes good or doesn't. That's the whole point.
If you look at a flower
Yeah.
and it's beautiful
Right.
and it makes you recognize the incredible, you have awe about Hashem, that Hashem could do.
If you're
something
meditating
like
upon the
this.
greatness of Hashem,
Right.
that's one thing. If you're meditating
you
on
get-
if you're going into the Louvre Museum and meditating on the greatness
no,
of,
I'm talking about the flower, and you're blown away with awe at this
Right.
flower, this creation of Hashem.
okay, that's a mitzvah. That's a mitzvah.
That's a mitzvah. It's a pleasure.
Well, the pleasure is again the pleasure is the pleasure of the mitzvah.
Is the pleasure part a bad part?
It's the pleasure of the mitzvah that you're having. In other words, we have no other means to investigate God but the world that He made before us. There's
I'm
no.
not saying it's the mitzvah. It's the pleasure of encountering.
So yes, the
Hashem.
simple and pleasures that you take that are not connected with mitzvahs, that are not associated with the service of Hashem, they are part of the world that Hashem made. That's like separate from Him and disconnected from Him. Physical. We say that you have a godly soul and you have an animal soul. Animals only go for the pleasure in things, right? So they're not evil, so to speak. They're just doing their thing. But they're not godly, they're not connected to the divine in the sense that they're recognizing their divine source, right? So when you're acting in an animalistic way, it could be that you're taking pleasure from even intellectual pleasures, which animals can't do, but it's still an animalistic type of pleasure. If your pleasure is not literally the pleasure of the mitzvah, that Hashem is, and in which case you're uniting the world with God. See, if you're just taking pleasure for yourself, you're basically separating the world from God. If you're taking pleasure in the divine act, you're uniting at that point the world with God, but that's really not the pleasure of the world anymore, it's the pleasure of the mitzvah. So it gets kind of changes your approach to life. That's basically what he's trying to say here. When you think deeply every single day about Hasidic concepts and like the nullity of the world before the Creator, your whole approach to life changes. You wind up, your diet changes, your conversation changes, your everything changes because you do things based on a different, line.
How about having children? I mean, that's a little bit risque to say, but you have children.
Also, what does it say in we just had a Tanya a month ago. It says that you have to serve for Hashem has to be your love. And therefore even your wife and children, he says over there. Right? It could be like a detriment, not to say that because you have a mitzvah to marry and you have a mitzvah to your children, those things are number one primary when it comes to serving Hashem. That's where your first love goes. Because that's what Hashem says. But if your love of your wife and children is going to precede your love of God, and therefore my wife doesn't want me to keep Shabbos, so for Shalom Bayis, you hear that a lot. So that doesn't work like that. Your love of your children and your wife cannot come before your love of God. It doesn't mean that when you decide to love God, it means you don't love your wife and children. On the contrary, it means that now now that you're following your commanded love, your first responsibility is to your wife and children. But the whole thing is coming from a completely different place. It's not personal. You're a servant, right? There's a famous quote that the Rabbi always says, I am only created to serve my master. It's not like you're there and then I'll serve my master. There's two things here. Your whole being is only to serve your master. So that should be your perspective.
I'll talk more about the intimacy. That's because passion takes over. You got to lock yourself into that. You know what I mean?
No, it's all from the same place. It says like Adam Arishon, why were they naked in the garden? Because by them, the reproductive limbs were no different than your arm that you put on tefillin with. It was just another way to do another mitzvah. So there's no passion that takes over, your divine purpose. On the contrary, Jewish people don't think that act separates you from Hashem. It's the holiest act, right?
The right intention.
Of course.
You could even say that things that it maybe have the potential to induce the most, what one would call individual pleasure, would be able to yield the greatest.
Yeah, because you're sacrificing your individual pleasure even more.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
All right, we didn't. We're going at a snail's pace over. You had a hand up for a while there. We'll sit back and think about it for a few minutes.
You have to eat it in order to.
I'm gonna enjoy it.
This is important though.
Eating,
I'm gonna enjoy it either way.
Well, this makes
if I eat to serve God,
Yeah.
so but then that doesn't qualify as I mean, what are we talking about here? If I
Eat to live, not live to eat.
it's a mitzvah, right?
What's a mitzvah to eat? It's not a mitzvah to eat.
Eat to serve God.
It's not really a mitzvah to eat. If you don't eat one day, you're not sinning per se, right? You have a mitzvah to stay alive, basically. So you have to take care of yourself. You have to guard your body. But I mean, if you can figure out how to guard your body by being like a breatharian, you're good to go, baby. Unless it's Shabbos, then you have a mitzvah to eat. Sometimes you have a mitzvah to eat. And essentially, there were, great sages that ate once a week or something like that. I mean, the Rabbi, he was a little bit, different. He ate like a couple bites every day.
There's all these mitzvahs like I don't know, like first fruits and all these different mitzvahs regarding food.
Okay. The mitzvah of the first fruit is the opposite of that. It's the mitzvah to take from the best of your food and dafka give it to Hashem. That's exactly what we're talking about. It's the mitzvah to sacrifice your food. Is the mitzvah of the first fruit. It's not a mitzvah to eat food. It's a mitzvah to take food, your greatest enjoyment, not only fruit, your first fruit. And you say, you know what? This is not for me, this is for God. You have it. And let the Kohen eat it, and his eating is a mitzvah. Right? So it's if you look into all your mitzvahs, I mean, Shabbos is your example. You do have a mitzvah regarding food. You have to eat 3 meals on Shabbos. Eat a lot. But again, that's a commanded eating. Your whole eating there is a act of worship. Just like in the Beis HaMikdash, they would eat to serve Hashem. Eating is a very high mitzvah. It has a lot of secret Kabbalistic depth to it when it's a mitzvah.
And during the week, there's not one regarding food.
I mean, there's a lot of mitzvahs regarding food, but not regarding. There is a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to sanctify yourself in what's permissible to you. In other words, there's a mitzvah to negate unnecessary eating, which is only for, your gross pleasure.
I heard during the week one should not eat meat only on Shabbat.
There's a concept like that.
On Yom Kippur, what is that? What day is that? Tuesday?
Today.
What is it? Sheni.
Shlishi.
Today or tonight?
Today.
What is it?
It's doubly good. Today.
For what?
God said it's doubly good.
During creation, we said today.
All right.
Learn about meditating?
Yeah.
Maybe they mean like shacharis.
No, after that, it should.
Oh yeah? Who are you supposed to meet, do you know?
But it was at 8:30. I thought that it would be here. He said it in yeshiva.
So, does that mean that some people,
I got I'm supposed to do it myself.
Is that why Rabbi Nuffin
Could
didn't
be.
eat all week?
Yeah.
Women, you know,
He was also at Sonic.
I mean, that what?
He was also on like a different
Until
level.
milk reaches high levels by
Well,
not eating
that's why. Yeah, but
fast.
are there other people that did that?
Lots of them.
Yeah.
Lots of them?
Yeah.
All week?
Yeah.
Only on Shabbat he ate.
That's
I
not
know.
recommended, by the way. Don't get into that. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you have to eat like a mensch. Don't not eat. That's called not eating.
you eat like
Not like a man.
energy for that food, you